views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to The American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. With me today is Bud Mendenhall, his co-host. Today's program should be of interest to the World War II veterans. We're going to be talking about the honor flight in Northeast Indiana. Our guest today is Dave Yates. He's on the board of directors of the honor flight, and also George Kohlmeyer, World War II veteran, and Bob Franke, World War II veteran. Let's start out with Dave. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the honor flight, how it got started, and who supports it, or how it's supported?
Okay, gladly. The national organization of honor flight got started very simply by one man taking one veteran to Washington, D.C. to see the memorial. And the reason he did this was this memorial was way overdue in being built. It didn't even exist until May of 2004. And the gentleman I was speaking of was a retired Air Force captain. At the time, he was working for the VA as a physician's assistant and started speaking to some of the people that he knew were World War II veterans about the World War II memorial and whether they'd like to see it. Of course, they all wanted to see it. Well, after months of talking to him, none of them had ever got out to see it. So he decided he was going to offer one gentleman a flight out at no cost to the veteran, and the veteran just stood there and cried. He was so happy about it. And he did it. Friends of his, the pilot, got word of it, and they wanted to do it, and he said, fine, but you cannot charge the veterans a dime for it. They started doing it. Word got out, businesses got involved, a gentleman in North Carolina got the whole big show really going with taking commercial flights out and charter flights. Our organization here in Fort Wayne and all of Northeast Indiana was started by Laura Carrico. Our present director is Tiffany Miller Fleming, and that's exactly what we do. We take all the applications we can get from World War II veterans. We started out small also. Our first 3 flights were aircraft that only carried 50 total people. So we would have 25 to 28 veterans and then guardians, because each veteran we would have a guardian to help them around, take care of all their needs that day. And again, it's absolutely no cost to the veterans. We take a charter flight. Now the Air National Guard Base has gotten involved with us. We fly out to D.C., first to the World War II Memorial, then quite a few other sites. The day ends up at the last changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier out at Arlington, which is always very touching. And of course, the trip includes all meals. We even start off with a hot breakfast at the Air National Guard Base, box lunches and box supper on the way home in the aircraft. Our last trip, we were lucky enough finally to put the funding together and got a good deal on a charter flight. And we took a aircraft that took 160 people instead of just 50. So we took more veterans on one trip this last time back in November than we took on the other 3 trips put together. So that really helped us cut into our waiting list. Instead of maybe waiting a year, 2 years, we cut it down to maybe a matter of months now, which is very important. We're losing our World War II veterans at about 1,000 a day. And I'm sure glad to see these 2 young men still with us today. And our costs are defrayed by a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, also some fundraising. We have some Legion posts, the Roanoke Legion post, Butler Legion, Auburn, quite a few different posts around the area have been very supportive, donate a lot of money, a lot of businesses. Zwick and Jan's Funeral Home, who we were speaking to, Waters of Fort Wayne, just very, I hate to start mentioning because I know I'll leave some out,
Yeah.
but a lot of very dedicated people have pitched in to help pay. It is a fairly costly endeavor. We have to charter the aircraft, charter bus. We had 3 buses this last trip. We get the gentlemen these caps, disposable cameras, a real nice souvenir book, all their meals. We take wheelchairs for hopefully everybody that needs them. Last time we had a little mess up there, but we try to take care of all their needs. And we've told them if it wasn't for now having to go through security, they wouldn't even need their wallets hardly because we try to take care of it there. Yep.
You may have said, but how many flights have they made since you started here?
We have done 4 flights. We are in the early stages of planning our 5th flight, which we hope to do on about May 23rd. And so we're shooting for another big flight, hopefully.
Try to have one in the spring and the fall?
Try to
Is that
do
what you
one in
try?
the spring and the fall, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And if the day comes that we have gotten all our World War II veterans out, and we will, well, we might have already taken some Korean War veterans also, but we'll do Korean and on down from there as long as we can keep the organization going. And we're constantly, this is what's nice about a program like this, we're constantly getting the news out there, getting more people involved. It doesn't take long for people to hear about it, to really get enthused.
What time in the morning they usually leave to get all that done in one day?
We try to be in the air from Fort Wayne about 9 o'clock. The flight out only takes about an hour. And in fact, the bus trip from Dulles into the memorial takes almost as long as the flight does, depending on the traffic. And of course, if you've been around Washington, D.C., you know that can be horrific.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a long, busy day, but they enjoy it. We enjoy it. I love getting to spend time with these gentlemen, hear their stories.
Yeah.
It's just, I think we get as much out of it as they do, maybe.
Do you ever have to stay overnight anytime?
No, we don't. We've been very lucky with the weather. We've flown out there with solid cloud cover and rain, but I've only gotten soaked one time, and that was kind of my own fault. My first trip, I was a guardian. My 2 veterans were smart enough to get back to the bus, and I didn't. But we've had rain a couple other times, but it was always while we were on the bus doing some drive-around touring. We've always lucked out that way. So, no, we don't spend the night. That would be
That'd be
quite
almost
an
a
undertaking.
catastrophe.
Yeah.
It would be, with
Yeah.
health concerns and
Yeah.
such like. Yeah, there'd be.
I suppose anybody on medication, they better take some
Oh
extra
yeah,
with them.
yeah. And we always have quite a few medical people. We had at least 7 nurses and medical personnel from Lutheran Hospital with us the last time as guardians, and we always have. We've had firemen, policemen, EMTs, and some of our own members of the board have had medical training. I used to be a volunteer fireman, first responder, and such like. So.
Does it cost a guardian?
I'm glad you brought that up. The Guardians pay $400 to go. And they don't get some of the amenities that the veterans do, but we have no trouble getting Guardians. They're lined up, maybe more applications for Guardians than we do veterans even. And it's important because that $400 helps defray a big part of our cost for the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very important. But like I said, we have no trouble getting them. Yeah, they enjoy it.
How do you get the word out to the Guardians to find them?
Well, through the trips themselves, we've had very good coverage from Fort Wayne media and a lot of other area medias. We had a young reporter from the Huntington area go with us last time as a guardian. Wayne TV cameraman went along our last trip and provided us good coverage. And that always gives us an influx I wasn't on the first trip. How that one was set up, I'm not sure. That's kind of how I got going. My dad was on the first trip as a veteran. I went down to help see him off, and what I saw just so enthused me that that very day I signed up to be
They
a
have a
guardian.
flight right out of International Airport out here, right into Washington.
Right into Washington. That's why we do charter. Otherwise, we would have to go to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Now you're talking
Okay.
either having to stay all night at Indy or else really leaving early. It's worked out well. The last 2 trips we have flown from the Air National Guard base. So before we were in a independent terminal right beside the main terminal, and so this that really helps us out a lot because they have the big mess hall that we can meet in, get everything organized, get everybody checked off.
Ever lose anybody?
Not yet. Well, this isn't wood, but not yet. We do a roll call every time we get back on the bus, every time we get back on the airplane. A little time consuming, but very important.
What time do evening you usually get back?
We're usually back about 9:30. Yeah. Yeah, but I tell you, I see these guys getting on the airplane in the morning, and I see, I don't want to be an insult or anything, but I see these elderly gentlemen that I respect immensely getting on. And of course, we're all kind of, it's early in the morning, and none of us running laps around that airplane or anything. But in the evening, I see 20-some-year-old veterans coming off of that plane like they're just coming back, and they're just big smiles, and we always have a very good send-off. The Air National Guard guys come out on their own time, and we'll have 2 rows of flags for the guys to go down through. Not only guys, we have lady veterans also, our last trip we did. And it's just the support we get. Families will be out there, of course, and we pack that mess hall there at the Air National Guard base in the morning with the families, and we've even had Legion Honor Guards out there, an actual Air Force Honor Guard come out. I've met generals and colonels from the Air National Guard here lately. They've really been involved in it.
George, how'd you feel about it?
Well, it was a wonderful experience, and it was a way of getting around to get to D.C. that I probably may not have gotten there. But the whole day was a wonderful experience. We had started off, like he said, in the morning, but we were to be there by 6 in the morning, and it sort of tickled me. We had something for breakfast that we used to have in the service. We had our SOS and scrambled eggs, that was always standard breakfast in the service. So
Stuck with it too.
they planned that quite well. And in fact, as we got on, then they assigned us. He called them guardians. We called them companions. Everybody was assigned a guardian, and had a wonderful guardian that was guardianing with me. Her name is Jean Skaggs. She was a nurse from Lutheran Hospital. Her sister had been on a flight before that and wanted to go again, and talked a bunch of nurses into going. She was so enthused about it. But they also had USO ladies handing out cookies as we got on. You go back to USO days. They had that scheduled as we were going on to the plane, handing each one of us some cookies. And they had the honor flags that we had to walk through, and had the pleasure of walking through to get on the plane. Of course, the two big reasons was the World War II memorial, and then the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. But in addition, they drove us all around Washington, D.C., all the different monuments. We didn't get off to see them, but we